Hello Factorio people, welcome back to the broadcast from Space Age. I'm going to Gleba today. It's time for the Gleba conversation. I'm also not recording this at a time when they are doing DIY next door, so let's hope for the best, shall we? I should flip and hope so. It's 8 PM. If I hear one single drilling noise, I'm phoning the police. If you want to do the old like, comment, subscribe for me, that would be great. And we'll jump straight into it, shall we? Oh, I got the same demo too. No, I didn't. This one's slightly different. This one's the guy with the rock grenade launcher. Just has the same biter thing. I'm rambling. I got the same one 3 in a row. That's why I was waiting. Yeah, there we go. No, shame. Okay. We're going to Gleba. We're going to Gleba, boys. Gleba is contentious. Some people don't really like it. I do like it, but I do appreciate that it is difficult, and a lot of my builds are going to be very spaghetti-like because it is weird. It is confusing. I've also brought with me belts and undergrounds and splitters and bots and drillers, and we'll send the ship back to Vulcanus. Got enough ammo to last? Yes. Alright, okay. So this is only the second time I've ever done Gleba, so I don't pretend like it's going to be perfectly okay, but it's going to be a mess. I think the most important thing with Gleba is to realise that it will be a mess. That's okay. It's also very difficult to build in advance. It's quite easy on all of the other planets to build in advance and plan for it. On Gleba it's very hard to plan because your belts, if you plan and you start making a bus, your belts end up full of spoilage, which, you know, is not good. Right, our robots are in. So the first thing we should do is we should find some iron stromatolites, and some copper stromatolites. Thankfully they're very easy to find. This seed ended up being a bit rubbish, turns out, for, let me get my... Oh no, we want the Not Cliffs utility. That's the one we want. We want the Not Cliffs utility. Because now that we've got cliff explosives unlocked, the deconstruction planner will just pick cliffs at all times. So this is a deconstruction planner that just whitelists cliffs so that we can still destroy trees and rocks and stuff, but not end up selecting all the cliffs. So here's some iron. There we go, that was a quick one. That gives you access to nutrients from spoilage and the agricultural tower. And then, if I remember correctly, there's some copper over here. So Gleba is in like 4 key biomes, I think. Like the generic rock landscape. Get my old drawing tool out. Purple is iron / jelly nuts. Jelly D's nuts, am I right? Am I right about that, folks? There's the rocky area, which there are rock deposits. They're not very large, but they do exist. And then there's a yellow area, which is the copper / whatchamacallit, Yamako. So these two first techs are very easy to get. And then if you find some jelly stems and some Yamako trees, you get some more stuff, so let's try and find that. This is the nice patch for jelly stems. That's these guys. These brain-looking things. 1,500 jelly roots, jelly nuts. That's not, you know, that's too many. So everything has a white bar on it in Gleba. That means it spoils. Spoil time 1 hour. We've left the spoilage on default, of course. Iron bacteria spoils into iron, but that's fine, that's what you want. Copper bacteria spoils into copper, that's what you want. Everything else mostly spoils into spoilage. which is not 100% useless, but still pretty useless. So Gleba, yeah, Gleba is weird, it's confusing. Here's some Yamako. There we go. This is not a very good patch. I think the most confusing thing about Gleba is the fact that the map does show you all the information you need, but the biomes are extremely weird. So yeah, as I was saying, yellow is where... Can I turn my roboports off and get rid of this horrible green square? Yeah, there we go. Yellow is where you can get copper, the copper tree. Purple is where you can get the iron tree. The light purple is where you can plant iron trees. And the light yellow is where you can plant copper trees. The actual yellow itself is where you can eventually, when you research artificial soil, place more landfill of this particular soil type to grow. So if we get an architectural tower out, agricultural tower, sorry, anywhere that's green will grow the seed. Anywhere that's yellow can be turned into green squares with the landfill. This is all very confusing, and I don't think the game does a particularly good job of showing you that, teaching you that, and I think that's maybe half the issue with because I mean, it shows you this thing here in the tips and tricks, but this is one of those like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 keywords in one paragraph. Like, what? What? Yeah, these belts are going very fast. That's because this is on speed up, that's why. There we go. Right, that's enough of that. So we're definitely going to use this patch for growing jelly nuts, because this patch is already very good, and if we get an agricultural tower out we can see that there's a lot of green here, and then there's also a lot of yellow, so we can turn a lot of this into where we're going to grow stuff. And let's just harvest as much iron as we can while we're here. Turn my robots back on. And the yellow patch that I end up using is a bit up further to the northwest. I took some damage there because these things, these boom puffs, actually explode when you harvest them. Not in any really meaningful, dangerous way. I don't think I've ever lost a robot to it. But, you know, it does exist. Alright, so we can get nutrients, and then we can get the biochamber. So let me skip forward in time to my actual next save file, and we'll see what happened. I just spent a bit of time using all of the stone that I'd collected to make some basic furnaces, and smelted the iron and copper that I found. Still just getting iron and copper from the, what were they called? Stalagmatrocious to get lots of iron and copper, because the first thing that we should really do is build some biochambers. And they need iron plates and electronic circuits. Thankfully we can get those quite easily. They need nutrients, which we can also get quite easily. They need landfill, which we can get from stone. But they need pentapod eggs. So unfortunately we're going to have to break our pacifist run here to get a pentapod egg. Because you get pentapod eggs as drops from these egg rafts. When you're playing in peaceful mode, it does seem to spawn you... I'm pretty sure this is different. It does seem to spawn you a few egg raft nests. Maybe it spawned you egg raft nests with no pentapods anyway. So these two small egg rafts here are in stark contrast to this nest down here, which actually has active pentapods. All right, mate. How's it going? Hideous. Oh, that's because these come from egg rafts. So I think the small egg rafts must not spawn anything. Consumes 2 spores. Maybe it does. I don't know. So I'll leave that guy alone in his house, and we will just quickly destroy these. So for this, I've just quickly manufactured the shotgun and some shotgun shells because I don't know. It seemed fitting for some reason. And all right, sorry, my dudes. Okay. So you can see here there are some pentapod eggs dropped on the floor. We'll quickly hoover those up and we'll use those to make a biochamber. So this is the unique building you get from Gleba. It's very good. It is much like the electromagnetic plant. It's a crafting speed of 2, 4 module slots, 50% base productivity. It's a lot smaller, and folks, if you can believe it, it doesn't require any electricity to run. It does, however, require nutrients. The nutrients are not hard to find on Gleba at all. It's this handcrafting time, 20 seconds. Oh, and I probably had to handcraft the circuits and stuff. Okay, so the pentapod eggs do spoil in your inventory as well. Create the first biochamber at 44 hours, 18 minutes, 27 seconds. Technology bioflux researched. Of course, build one biochamber by hand and then build the rest with the biochambers for that sweet, sweet 50% productivity bonus. So what do we need? We need some electronic circuits, some landfill, some nutrients. So give me that. You can get nutrients from bioflux, but you can't make bioflux by hand, even if you've got the mash and the jelly. So you get mash from processing the Yamako, and you get jelly from processing the jelly nuts, unsurprisingly. So let's actually scrap that and quickly get some Yamako processing done. We need to get some nutrients by hand first, but that's okay, because you can get nutrients from spoilage. So the nutrients go in this slot. So like these buildings are like, think of them like glorified furnaces, right? So this gives us the Yamako mash and the odd chance to get a seed, so we can keep everything nice and sorted. Everything's very sustainable here on Gleba. And then we'll do the same for some jelly nut processing. Give me that sweet, sweet jelly. The output, the spoilage output of a product is dependent on the spoilage input of your products. I don't think it's related to this nutrient spoilage, but it is definitely a function of this. So this is freshness was at 83.5, which means this was at 83.5, but this spoils a lot faster than this, which is why this is ticking down very quickly. So, alright, we'll call that. We'll call that good. And then we'll change this to bioflux. We'll get some bioflux done. Need a few more nutrients from spoilage, but as I say, that's easy. Ah, no, not like that. Not like that. Oh, alright, fine. Give me nutrients from Yamako mash instead. Now I'm going to need 1 nutrient from spoilage. This is 10 spoilage. Gives you 1 nutrient, so you do need to get some spoilage from somewhere. But you can get spoilage from, like, the ground. I don't know why my character's handcrafting stuff, but whatever, it is what it is. So you'll find yourself doing this quite a lot, like jump-starting your base very often, because as you're designing, everything will spoil and then just nothing will be running, and then you'll have to just kickstart it again. So even if I keep all this nutrients on my person, it's going to spoil in 1 minute and 40 seconds, so the more we can do with that now, the better. And the same goes for the eggs. The eggs are on a spoilage timer of 15 minutes, so we need to sort of hurry up with that, but let's... what did we say? Biochambers. We wanted... oh, that's right, we wanted a quick, decent stockpile of nutrients, because these take 5 nutrients and the machine takes nutrients. What am I doing? What am I doing? I was trying to speed run the game for some reason. Quickly, give me some electronic circuits and some landfill, please. Probably would have been sensible to craft some electronic circuits before this point. But it's only 5. It's only 1 pentapod egg, and we've got 3, so we'll make the 4 biochambers, and we won't worry about farming biochambers for now. 4 should be more than enough to get started. So if 4 is more than enough to get started, then that inherently means that that is enough. Electronic circuits, only 1 landfill, it's only 5 nutrients. It's not too bad getting started here. You'll also see that they have module slots. If you put efficiency modules in, the machine uses fewer nutrients to fuel it. So if you're not being foolish like me and doing a starting every planet from scratch kind of vibe, then by all means bring yourself a whole bunch of efficiency modules. That will help you out quite a lot. Could have done with 1 more pentapod egg really, couldn't we, just to get this 50% bonus? Do you think that's worth doing? Let's be brutal about it. There we go. Alright, so we've got 5 biochambers now. So let's see what needs to happen next. So this is the general area. This is what I'm going to use for Yumako seed growth, and down here is what I'm going to use for the other one, jelly nut. Sorry, I don't know why I can't remember what those two things are called, which means we're going to build, like, probably in this space here. I do regret, in hindsight, going to all the effort to bring green belts. I really don't think that's necessary. I just did it because I had them. I don't actually think it's necessary. Like, when I eventually belt the seeds and the jelly nuts all the way up here, all the way up here, all the way up here to build here, using all of this as green belts was very sad. It's very expensive. Wish I hadn't bothered. Okay. So I've got some basic electricity up, because you will need some basic electricity, and we're making some concrete with stone bricks to make the heating tower. Because the heating tower ends up being more efficient than boilers in terms of burning for fuel. So I've just been making some Yumako mash and farming spoilage, basically. Spoilage has an absolutely atrocious fuel value, but thankfully we're not using that much electricity. And also I've plugged in some of the big miners down here just to start stockpiling stone. Because you do need stone on Gleba. Not loads of it, but you do need some. Thankfully we got these big mining drills to help us along here, because you need, yeah, as I say, you need concrete for the heating towers, and we're probably going to want to make steel furnaces and electric furnaces at some point. And of course we are foolishly deciding to make rockets on Gleba rather than shipping rocket stuff to us, because we're sadists like that, you know. So let's get this concrete out of here. No, let's get the bricks in. Put the bricks in and get the concrete out. I already had concrete on me, that's good. So we'll make the heating tower. It needs 20 concrete, 2 boilers, 5 heat pipes, which needs a whole bunch of good stuff, but we can do that. Yeah, if you're not being an idiot, then maybe bring yourself some heat pipes as well, because heat pipes can be quite expensive in the old steel. Steel is not hugely abundant on Gleba in the early game, before you get all your trees and stuff set up. Because you also then need to build heat exchangers as well, which is 10 copper plates, 10 steel plates. But I've got one on me already, thankfully. I had a heating tower on me already as well. Looks like I'd prepped for this and then forgot to actually remember that I'd done that. So the heating tower works like, think of it like a mini nuclear reactor. It generates heat. That heat travels through heat pipes to heat exchangers, which then heat a boiler, basically, in the same way that a nuclear power plant does. And they're quite efficient. They don't seem like they are to begin with. I slept on them for a little bit. So if I take all this spoilage only has a fuel value of 250 kilojoules, and if I throw this in, it absolutely plows through it, and this has got to get to 500 before it does anything. And you think, that is awful. That's not even going to get to 500 with all of this spoilage. You're telling me you're going to need all of this spoilage, at least. The spoilage, it's not fair to use the spoilage. It's very good to burn excess spoilage in a heating tower because you can get rid of it so quickly. But you kind of counterintuitively have to use, I think, either the Yumako or the mash directly. So one Yumako seed is 2 megajoules, but if you process it, you get 2 Yumako mash, which are 1 megajoule each. So you may as well process it to try and get the seeds, which is what we've been doing here. And then we can go and plant those seeds by hand. We don't need an agricultural tower to actually do the planting. And we can use this as sort of a... It's very annoying that it doesn't show you where you're allowed to plant the things. In the same way that having the agricultural tower up shows you where it's allowed. But you can get, if you find a big enough patch, if you find a decent enough patch, you can get a whole bunch of Yumako or jelly nuts in the early game. Process them into... You don't... necessarily even have to process them into the mash, because the problem with processing them into the mash is that the mash has a spoilage time of 3 minutes versus the actual fruit, which has a spoilage time of 1 hour. So of course then it's very easy to just set up a simple... Ooh, excuse me. Just throw all of these in there and just get this going in the early game. So you can, these still burn relatively fast. But once this hits the 500, then you'll notice the... I'll just hand feed this just to... You see, that's a lot slower. But once this hits the 500 in the same way a nuclear power plant works, it then only lowers the heat when it takes heat away to make steam, which is dependent on your electricity network. So if you're not doing much with the electricity, all you've really spent is the fruit to get this up to 500. So then as long as you put this somewhere that you think it's going to last, you don't like silly demolish it to move it somewhere, because then you have to get the... You can see this is a lot more sustainable than what we were doing before with the spoilage. Anyway, so that gives you a little bit of electricity, which lets you just do a few things automated-like. All automated-like. So we can maybe start bootstrapping this godforsaken planet. Hopefully. Yeah, so a yellow inserter is not enough. A blue inserter is much better for this. Of course, as I say, if you process these first into the mash, if you're going to burn them this quickly, you may as well process them into the mash, because then you get the seeds back. You only get a 2% chance for a seed, but 1 tree is 50 fruit, so on average you will always end up equal over a long enough time. I think you end up positive just because of how... I mean, I know that sounds ridiculous, but even though 1 tree gives you a 2% chance for a seed, it's because the biochambers have 50% productivity. That's right. That's why you always end up positive. I was like, I know that I'm right, and I just can't remember why. So you actually have a 3% chance to get a seed. Anyway, that's enough rambling. Okay, so the Gleba builds end up being very strange, very, very strange, because you have to account for a whole bunch of eventualities, right? So if I just quickly do this, the fruit comes in. Don't have a radar down, but we've got the agricultural tower in now. I've manually filled it with seeds. They're already run out, but if you put seeds in the input, that's the wrong flavour of seed. I don't have the right flavour of seed. It will plant in the green squares. A tree takes 5 minutes to grow. 5 minutes later you get 50 fruit. 50 fruit comes out with this inserter, comes down the line, joins the queue of fruit to be processed. Now you'll see this absolute mess of inserters, all with filters and stuff. This is why people don't like Gleba, because you need to think about all of these eventualities, right? So you need, if I bring my drawing thing up again, you need 1 inserter that can put fruit in. You need 1 inserter that can put nutrients in. Now, of course, these could be the same inserter, I suppose. You need 1 inserter that can bring the seeds and the mash out. And you need another inserter, potentially, you need another output for anything in here that spoils. Any one of these slots could turn into spoilage and need to be output somewhere. So that's why, excuse me. So these long-handed inserters put the seeds onto the belt, and eventually this will go all the way back to the agricultural tower, just so that this is fully automated. These take the Yamako mash and the spoilage out, because these are going to spoil at some point, this Yamako mash, so it doesn't hugely matter that you're putting the spoilage in the same line, because you'll need to deal with spoilage on this. And then this inserter puts the fruit in, and then this inserter puts the nutrients in, and then I always put my nutrients on a loop. It's just a lot easier, I find, to put them on a loop, because then eventually you can do things like this, where you can just have it keep cycling around, but spit the spoilage out. You know? So as the nutrients spoil, as they are wont to do, you could do this. You could put a heating tower on every single nutrient loop, I guess. If you don't do this, if you do this, and you just wait, it also does work, but then you have to think about how you're going to get rid of spoilage from this side, right? You could put a filter on the end that says do this, and I do this in some places, but the nutrient loop works for me because once I've got nutrients set up, you know, I can just add more and more things to the line. I'm not going to do nutrients from mash forever, I'm going to do nutrients from bioflux. Bioflux is by far the best way to get nutrients. 40 nutrients from 50 bioflux. Bioflux has a spoilage time of 2 hours. So, yeah. Any way you can use bioflux is good. And then, as I said before, this is the problem with your builds on Gleba, is that eventually it will all just stall because it just has nothing for it to do. So all of our Yumako mash has gone into this chest, it's slowly spoiling. The seeds aren't going back in at the moment, so we're not getting any fresh fruit, and then eventually this nutrient will all spoil and we will have nothing to do. Everything will just break. But that's okay. That's okay. It will definitely be very challenging on your first time through, especially if you don't know which tech. So I think, oh, nutrients, I'll get nutrients from this, and then you get bioflux unlocked, and then you realise that bioflux is a very good thing to do. But the actual trigger technologies is relatively quick in comparison to the other two planets. Like, we can start making agricultural science packs very quickly as soon as we make 100 bioflux. The real challenge on Gleba is then getting a sustainable supply of everything you need to launch rockets to get out. So by all means, if you want to, if you find it easier, given how cheap rockets are, just make your Gleba shuttle bring in rocket parts. Not obviously rocket parts, you can't do rocket parts, but get your Gleba shuttle to bring in processing units. Like, these stack to 300 in a rocket, so that's already 6 rockets worth. What on earth am I doing? Low density structures stack to 200 and rocket fuel stacks only to 100, but still, with a few productivity modules, which you can also bring in a ship, you can easily get 3 or 4 rockets of equipment quite quickly onto a shuttle. So by all means do it like that. I'm not going to do it like that because, as I say, I like the challenge. I don't mind Gleba, I think Gleba's quite fun. If you don't think Gleba is fun, then that's all you really need. You can get away with a base that is like literally this big, a couple of belts that bring in the fruit, and then a cargo bay that just brings in rocket parts, and you're done. An hour, 2 hours at the most. If you don't like Gleba, that's okay. I know I joked in the very first episode, skill issue, but, you know, each to their own. I don't like the biters, so I turn the biters off. There we go. If you don't like spoilage, turn spoilage off. Put spoilage on 10 times the limit. There's an option for that in the game settings. It's all good. It's all good, friendos. It's all good. Hello. I'm just farming some pentapod eggs, because I want more biochambers. You can make pentapod eggs with pentapod eggs, thankfully. Just 1 pentapod egg gives you 2 pentapod eggs, plus the 50% productivity bonus. And then with the nutrients and the electronic circuits that we can easily make on our person, got loads of landfill going on. So down here I think I changed this to make the landfill directly. I think I realised I had enough stone at that point. It was the landfill that I wanted. Landfill's very expensive in Space Age. What? Oh, I think I turned the electricity off. I think I was having a problem keeping that heating tower warm. But yeah, landfill's very expensive in Space Age. So I'm just moving pentapod eggs backwards and forwards here, making nutrients as I need them, or at least siphoning them up from this thing. In you go. This is a bit more self-sustaining now, mostly because I'm ferrying the seeds backwards and forwards, but I was also running a bit short on copper, so I've got the copper bacteria thing set up, but I'll talk about that in depth later. Really, I'm just farming biochambers until I run out of landfill. Let me go back down and see if I had any more in storage, or at least let me hook the thing up. I don't know why I turned it off. It wasn't a very good example, was it? Oh my god, that's so much landfill. You only need one landfill to make a biochamber. It's really not that bad. So obviously I had to go out and get another pentapod egg, but I saved you the injustice of having to see that. So many pentapod eggs. Run out of iron now, of all things. How many biochambers is enough? I don't know. I just did this until I got bored. And I'm a Factorio player, so that was about 4 or 5 hours of that, just, you know, stuck on a podcast. I'm joking. I think I got up to about 40, maybe 60. Can't remember. It's not too laborious, as you can see. As long as you've got your nutrient supply automated, you don't want to be standing here making nutrients by hand, because the only way to make nutrients by hand is via the spoilage one, which is very, very inefficient. So I set this bit up first. Just make nutrients from your Mako mash, hoover it up. In you go, easy as you like. It's fun. It's got this sort of incremental game vibe to it. Dare I say those? I need more electronic circuits. Dare I say that? You know? Dare I show my degeneracy, my pure degeneracy, by talking about incremental clicker games? So with this we can do a lot bigger builds. We can actually start working out some concrete numbers, you know, things like how many Yamako mash plants will fill a belt. Good question, I think it's 8. No, it's 10. 10 of these will fill a green belt with Yamako mash. And what about the other one? What about the processing for jelly nuts into jelly? That's 4. No, that's 5. Okay. I think I end up doing 8 and 4 just because, rather than doing 10 and 5, I think I end up doing 8 and 4 just because, just for reasons. I'm not quite sure why. Don't remember. Oh, we're out of nutrients. Okay. So yeah, you only really need 1 or 2 biochambers to get yourself going. Once you've got that set up, providing you can go out and get pentapod eggs, or and if you're smarter than me, you will have automated electronic circuits somewhere by now, even with just a few assembly machines. But so this heating tower is up to 834, mostly because it's burning the spoilage that's coming in. So I've just got a simple spoilage thing on this loop at the moment. Why is this outputting so much spoilage? Because the nutrients are spoiling. Oh no, this process actually creates... Oh, this is not the farming of copper bacteria, this is just making copper bacteria. This isn't cultivation, this is the copper bacteria recipe, which has spoilage as an output. So the spoilage is going onto this belt and coming down to the heating tower. So you can see now that we're actually over the 500 degrees. This is not falling very much at all, because even with the admittedly meagre amount of energy we're using, it's not actually siphoning that much heat off into the heat pipes and then into the boilers, heat exchangers. But you can, in the same way that you can with a nuclear power plant, hook your heating tower up to an inserter. And I've got this inserter set to 500, I think that's wrong, it should be 550 really, so only insert valuable jelly nuts when we're when this starts to cool down below 550, which at its current rate and the amount of spoilage we're plugging in will just probably never happen. You know, so we can maybe get some jelly processing and stuff like that. Yeah. What, am I bored of this now? I don't know. Let me fast forward and see how many I actually ended up doing. Yeah, so there's 15 here and another 58 in my pocket. So yeah, a whole bunch. So I've plugged the jelly nuts in, plugged the Yamakos in. I'm also now sending the seeds back. And this is one of the things that upset me with why I chose to use green belts here. Because this is a lot of green belts just to bring the odd seed back, but you know, whatever. Maybe bring some green, but also bring some yellow. If you set your... Let me do this as a blueprint actually. If you set your agricultural tower up like this, create blueprint. Do I not have a book for episode 13? What's wrong with me? Let me quickly do that. Got caps lock on. Can't type. The pressure of typing on stream has gotten to me, folks. Agricultural tower. If you set your agricultural tower up like this, then this is the benefit of using the green belts, is that the green belts will actually stretch beyond the planting range of the agricultural tower. So the only zone you lose with this setup is this square here. And you're always going to need one square. You're always going to lose one square to stuff, because you do need to power it somehow. You do need to get the fruit out. You do need to get the seeds in. You're always going to lose one square, whether you do that with a power pole, some bots, or some belts. It never matters. You're always going to lose one square. So if you set it up like this, you will only lose one square, which, yeah, is the upside of using the green belts, because the green belts will reach at least, at the very most, this far. Not at least, the opposite of that one. And even a medium electric power pole with no quality will stretch to just outside the radius. So, can you say radius when it's a square? I don't think you can. Also, let me get rid of this. You can also hook the agricultural tower itself up to the circuit network. Not that. That's not what I meant to do. That's the benefit of having a power pole right there. So if you hook it up to this belt, you can say to not work. You have to get the belt to read the entire thing. You can say don't work when there are more than... only work, sorry, when there are less than... Let's go 200 for now. So the other thing to remember is that the fruit on the tree never spoils, which sounds like an idiom, but it's not. I just made it up. The fruit on the tree never spoils. This will be here forever. The second the agricultural tower picks it up and puts it into its slots, it will start to spoil. So really, you only want it to do that when it can definitely output onto the belt. But not only when it can output onto the belt, but when it's actually needed to be processed at this position. So I always do that with my agricultural towers, and I will incorporate that into the blueprint. In fact, would make more sense for you. You will have to obviously hook that up to the belt of your choice, but at least that is all set up for you now. So we want Bioflux, because Bioflux is very good. Bioflux goes into a lot of things. Looks like we need some stuff. Oh, the handcrafting. Oh god, it's painful. Oh dear. And as you can see, during all of that, the machines, they ran out of nutrients. So we do have to kickstart the whole thing, but we're going to kickstart the whole thing with the Bioflux. Because, as I say, Bioflux, 15 Yamako Mash, 12 Jelly makes 4 Bioflux, which is very, very efficient, and then 5 Bioflux makes 40 nutrients. So this is by far and away your best system of making nutrients. It only takes 2 seconds, you get 40 nutrients. It's crazy. And then just for now, yeah, I'm belting all the nutrients in a loop here. I do eventually change this, but just for now I'm experimenting with this. So let's kickstart this up by just putting 1 nutrient into the Bioflux power plant. Biochamber, I should say. And then off we go. Oh, it's glorious. Oh, Gleba, it's so good. I love it so much. So, there are of course other things we have to do. What if the things at the end of the belt spoil? This Bioflux thing is now never going to ever make anything because the end is full of spoiled jelly. You can do cheeky things. Several ways to achieve that. You can put an inserter at the end that's just filtered for spoilage, of course. You can do cheeky things like, providing these are the actual ends of the belts, you could do... Actually, I'm not sure you can do this here. You can do it in some situations where you put a filter on this and you say to only output spoilage. Which means nothing passes this position, but then the spoilage moves on. Obviously the downside of that is that These tiles are kind of dead. Actually, not so much this one, because that inserter is actually grabbing from there. These tiles are dead. This is going to be spoilage forever. These will never get used. It's up to you. It is up to you, really, on how you feel about that. But definitely have a plan for the spoilage at the end of belts. So we're going to need that here as well, unfortunately. We're going to need that here. But, you know, there's things we can do. And as we get more and more resources, it will also behoove us to just bung heating towers in places, you know, like... The only other thing that you need spoilage for, beyond kickstarting nutrients by hand, is goes into sulfur? Is that correct? Yes, goes into biosulfur. You can make carbon from it, which, you know, if you've got loads of spoilage, you can do that. But you do actually need it to make biosulfur, which is the only way to get sulfur on Gleba, because you can't get petroleum gas at all. There's a different recipe for plastic on Gleba. Bioflux and mash. So yeah, so like this works, we know it works, but obviously the problem is it's all going to back up, it's all going to spoil, all of the Amako is spoiling. So then the next time we do something, we'll have to clear it all out, design it again. You know, that's the only, that's the major complaint, I think. But so the plan is basically to just bust this stuff. So we'll have one lane for Yamako, one lane for Jelly, one lane for Bioflux, and that should get us everything we need. In theory, those are your three main products. Need to think about nutrients in various places, but that's fine. If you've got Bioflux on the belt, you've got nutrients on the belt. It's really how you need to think about it. As I say, Bioflux spoils in 2 hours, so shouldn't ever really be a problem once you've got Bioflux up and running. But yeah, like stuff like this, like as we're now designing stuff and building stuff, we've got an absolute metric preponderance of spoilage, which we do have to deal with. And I'm handcrafting stuff. I did ask the Vulcaner shuttle to bring me some cliff explosives. Seeing as I had so many cliff explosives on Vulcaner, so I don't know if you remember, I set it up and it's sort of just been ticking over, and it did actually hit its 2,000 limit. In fact, it didn't hit its 2,000 limit because these chests can only hold 960 each. Because I forgot they only stacked to 20. That should be enough to get us going. So I brought it to... I asked the shuttle to bring me 100 cliff explosives just to clear out this area. This is where we're going to build, and I do end up building this way. So clearing all of these cliffs were, you know, that was maybe irrelevant, but it does help. It does help. Other important thing to remember is that you can pick up landfill now. So don't be too concerned about wasting, quote-unquote, wasting landfill on getting belts to reach undercerned things, because if you do accidentally, you know, hold shift and like do this, it will put the landfill down under the thing and you're like, oh no, what a waste, but you can just pick up the landfill now, so don't forget that. What are you doing here? Look at all this spoilage, oh my god. But it's fine, everything's completely infinite. And because we got pollution off as well, the spores that would... So the other downside, really, to Gleba is that when you pick the trees, it makes spores which attract the enemies. Now, how I dealt with that in my default playthrough is the same way I dealt with it with a regular bite, is I just cleared all of the nests out from my pollution cloud. And then any expansions that happened, I cleared those. But obviously when you're leaving a planet, you're going to need to defend it in some way. But Gleba enemies are extremely weak to electricity. Tesla weapons you can make fairly cheap at this point in the game, I guess, on Fulgora. And these don't need ammo. It says ammo category Tesla. That is a complete lie. These do not need ammo. They are like laser towers, but with electricity. And Vulcaners, Gleba enemies are extremely weak to electricity. And I think that's mostly because yeah, they have absolutely zero electrical resistance compared with, like... Actually, does anything have electrical resistance? Presumably demolishers do. Yeah, demolishers do. And I also think that each one of the legs is a separate hitbox as well, so the electricity sort of arcs between the legs, especially with the medium stompers, so yeah. Tesla turrets are definitely the way to go on Gleba if you are playing a non-peaceful mode game. Right, let's expand this bus and let's hurry up because it's been 45 minutes already. Alright, this is your iron and copper farm. I've got one of each of these biochambers that make copper bacteria, but only if this belt has no copper bacteria on it at all. Same with this belt for iron bacteria. And then, providing your inserters are set up in the right way, this will pick up the copper bacteria, put it into the biochamber for cultivation, output more copper bacteria, and then this one will put it back in. So output, input, output, input, output, input. So these are obviously the wrong way around. I must have done a terrible job with that when I did my copy-paste. Horizontal flip. Yeah, there we go. That's better. Currently the nutrient loop is going all the way around. I do change that. I shut this nutrient loop off here and add another one. Seeing as the bioflux is coming in anyway, I just add a separate nutrient loop because this is getting a bit silly now. And I added a circuit condition to read the belt and have this only make nutrients when there was less than an arbitrary number that I selected, which for now is 200. So only make more nutrients from bioflux when we have a shortage of it on the belt. And as you can see, I've put in various places here just little splitters that take the spoilage out, and that's how I'm dealing with spoilage. So whenever a belt terminates, I've got either an inserter that takes an inserter with the spoilage filter on, or a splitter with a spoilage filter on, depending on what happens. And yes, it is an absolute spaghetti mess, but it is glorious. It is glorious. We can all agree on that. So everywhere you have an input, you need to clear the spoilage. Everywhere you have an output, you need somehow way to clear spoilage. Like, there probably is a much better way to do this. You could build everything with loops. You could build absolutely everything with loops. The issue with loops that I've found on Gleba is that because you need inputs and outputs and nutrients, you could do like this for everything, you know. And with green undergrounds, you could, you know, that just about reaches that. Yeah. So you get 3 biochambers in, and you could do this, I suppose. Probably not right in front of an assembler of a biochamber that needs stuff, but you could do it like this and have all of the spoilage come off like that, something like that, I guess, ish. Just brainstorming it. I'm doing it like this. What's wrong with you? You don't work at all. How strange. So the iron bacteria just turns into iron ore, and this gets us loads of the stuff. This gets us absolutely loads of the stuff. 600 iron ore a minute, 600 copper ore a minute. Like, that is... I mean, it's not loads and loads and loads, I guess, when you put it like that, like when you put it in terms of a miner, but it's free. It's free. Okay. I'm not going to blueprint any of this, because as I say, it's all horrendous spaghetti. It's not really modular in any way. It's sort of one and done. That's it. I did eventually set up the agricultural tower for jelly nuts, and I've done the same thing. I've made the circuit condition for this one, well, I will do when I eventually set up a bit longer, because it should be a function of your belt, right? This one being a low number is better because it doesn't have to travel so far. If this one was the same number, then 100 on the belt, you know, would be here by the time this is actually ready to do anything else. take a long time for this to get to under 100 and get that signal over there. So make sure that when you're doing this bit, that this number is a function of the distance between your processing and your growing. Okay. There's a few more things we can do to tidy up. So let's... Mamma mia! Only Fenton's finest Factorio spaghetti will do. So this nutrient loop is now self-contained. There's another biochamber here doing nutrients for just this part. And then I'm also making rocket fuel and plastic with the requisite recipes here. This one's Bioflux and Yumako mash, this one's Bioflux, jelly and water. This rocket fuel is insanely cheap in comparison to the other rocket fuel recipes. Like, it's 1.2 rocket fuel a second for some water and these 3 ingredients which come out of the freaking ground. Yeah, Mitchell and Webb reference? Hit me up in the comments if you know what I'm talking about. See that chicken? It's made of chicken. And then that rocket fuel will go very nicely, very nicely in these heating towers. Extremely well in the heating towers. It sounds awful using rocket fuel for things like that. On Gleba, it is absolute chef's kiss because the rocket fuel is just so cheap. That's more like it. I'm actually even smelting the iron and the copper in these stone furnaces with the rocket fuel. You can't stop me. What are you going to do? Phone the police? I'd like to see you try. Okay, now we're actually getting to the point where the amount of seeds, the amount of fruit that we're growing is now no longer enough to sustain this production. You can see that we've fixed all of these spoilage issues, all of the spoilage loops. We've got stuff just flowing. It's just flowing on these belts, but just not enough fruit is getting in, so we need to do the landfill recipes here. Thankfully they're very easy, you just need some actual regular landfill. Nutrients, which we now have an absolute preponderance of thanks to our bioflux processing, these need to be stack inserters, and I did know that from square one, but obviously having not until you make plastic on Gleba can you make these by hand, because you need advanced circuits. Once we make these stack inserters, we will also be getting much more bioflux, which will also show that we don't really have enough fruit coming into the base. So let's quickly sort that out and we'll be done for the day. So you need to be stockpiling seeds for this. You need seeds to make the artificial soil. Thankfully the agricultural towers have a self-contained storage of 30 seeds, and due to the productivity bonus as we established before, this should be full at this point. The other thing you can do, and I would recommend doing because you're going to need an answer for it eventually, is to overflow any of the seeds. So we've got our old favourite friend here, the priority splitter. When this is full, put it into a chest. Eventually this chest will become a heating tower, so that they're just voided, completely voided, because obviously worst case scenario, we leave the planet and then all of these back up because these can't output any more seeds and the whole thing comes to a grinding halt. But for now, put them in a chest so that you can make artificial Yumako soil. And for some reason, I'm making nutrients by hand. So just let me just hoover this up, or vacuum if you don't like your genericized trademarks. Blue tack, post-it note, tannoy. This episode is brought to you by Tannoy Public Address Systems. Sorry, I don't know what's wrong with me. Yeah, actually run out of nutrients because we haven't got enough Yumako mash coming into the system. Right, but each one of these recipes makes 10 soil, so 5 landfill turns into 10 soil. So we've got loads of soil now, and you can see here that the green squares are the squares that you can place the landfill, and that corresponds with the yellow squares from when you put the agricultural tower down. Any red squares you cannot fill at all because they are either water or they're not the right biome or something, you know, so like here. So there is a lot of space eventually, but the hard part at the beginning is just finding the greens because you don't get access to the artificial soil for a little bit, so you need to find a place at the beginning that has some green and a lot of yellow. But once you hit that area, it's fine. I have bound holding Alt and the scroll wheel to increasing and decreasing this, so it's a simple case of just doing something like this, I suppose. There you go. We are 25 short. Oh, my nutrients, bloody... Yeah, alright, well, you get the idea. So what's this? This is a 7x7 grid, losing one space in the middle, that's 48, losing this space is 47 squares. 47 times 50 is 940 every 5 minutes, 940 divided by 60 is 10, 15... 15 fruit a second-ish, roughly. Ish. If any of that mental maths checked out at all. Which it probably didn't. This will process 16 Yamako a second, my god. Of course, there's absolutely nothing stopping you from plugging another agricultural tower in somewhere and just hooking both of these lines up. You will of course need to split the seeds between both towers. Merge the belts in some way, make sure that your readers are reading the correct part of the belt, etc, etc. But it is good, it's good. Right. It's working. It's working. Anakin Skywalker.gif, it's working. I do hope this was helpful to you. If you absolutely hate Gleba, I don't know if this will turn you around on it or what. Or if you find Gleba a real struggle, then I do hope that this helped you in some way. If it did help you or if you enjoyed the video, please don't forget to leave a like or a comment, and if you want to see more broadcasts from Space Age, be sure to subscribe. Next time we'll get all the stuff together we need to launch rockets and make agricultural science, which is very easy to make. It's only bioflux and pentapod eggs, but we need to do a pentapod egg farm and make sure that we don't kill ourselves in the process. So thank you so much for watching. Take it easy. I'll see you next time. Bye bye.